Kanye West's explosive clash with Piers Morgan on Uncensored erupts into chaos as heated words fly, ending in a shocking walkout that's gone viral. The studio lights burned hot, the air thick with tension, as Piers Morgan leaned forward in his chair, eyes locked on Kanye West. The set of Piers Morgan Uncensored was no stranger to fiery exchanges, but tonight, May 9, 2025, something felt different. Kanye, dressed in a black hoodie and his signature shades, sat with his arms crossed, his jaw tight. The audience, a mix of curious onlookers and die-hard fans, could sense the storm brewing. Piers, never one to shy away from a confrontation, had promised to dive deep into Kanye's recent controversies, and he wasn't holding back. "Welcome to Uncensored, Kanye," Piers began, his voice sharp but measured. "Let's get straight to it. Your social media posts over the past 2 years, particularly your anti-Semitic remarks, have caused a lot of pain. You've got millions of followers. Don't you think you owe them, and the people you've hurt, an explanation?" Kanye shifted, in his seat, his expression unreadable behind the dark lenses. "Piers, I'm here to speak my truth, not to be put on trial. What I say, what I post, it's about waking people up." "You wouldn't get it," the audience murmured, sensing the defiance in Kanye's tone. Piers raised an eyebrow, undeterred. "Waking people up? Kanye, your posts have been called hateful, divisive. You've doubled down on comments that have hurt entire communities. How is that waking people up?" Kanye's voice rose, cutting through the studio. "You're twisting my words, Piers. I'm not here to play your game. I'm talking about truth, about power structures, about things bigger than you or me. You're just a mouthpiece for the mainstream." Piers leaned back, a smirk tugging at his lips. "A mouthpiece? That's rich coming from you, Kanye. You've got a platform bigger than most, and you're using it to spread chaos. You call it truth. I call it recklessness." The crowd erupted in a mix of cheers and boos, the energy in the room spiking. Kanye ripped off his sunglasses, his eyes blazing. "Recklessness? You're sitting there in your fancy suit acting like you're above me. You don't know what I've been through, what I've seen. You're just chasing clout, Piers." Piers's face hardened, his voice dropping to a steely edge. "Clout? I'm here to hold you accountable, Kanye. You can't just say whatever. You want and expect no pushback. People are hurt, communities are angry, and you're acting like it's all a game." Kanye shot to his feet, pacing the stage like a caged animal. "Accountable? To who? You? You're not my judge, Piers. You're just a loudmouth with a microphone. I'm out here fighting for what's real, and you're trying to tear me down." This audience gasped, some shouting encouragement, others heckling. Piers stood up too, his voice booming. "Fighting for what's real? You're fighting for headlines, Kanye. You're not a martyr, you're a man who's lost his way, and you're dragging millions down with you." The room was electric, every word a spark threatening to ignite. Kanye pointed a finger at Piers, his voice dripping with venom. "Lost my way? You're the one who's lost, Piers. You're a has-been, clinging to relevance by attacking people. Like me." "You're pathetic." Piers's eyes narrowed, his composure cracking. "Pathetic? Look in the mirror, Kanye. You're the one ranting on social media, alienating everyone who ever supported you. You're not a hero, you're a liability." The crowd roared, the tension now a living thing. Kanye's face twisted with rage, his voice a low growl. "You want to talk liability? How about you, Piers, hiding behind your desk, pretending you're some moral compass? You're a fraud, and everyone here knows it." Piers took a step closer, his voice icy. "A fraud? At least I'm not delusional, Kanye. At least I'm not out there pretending I'm the Messiah while the world burns around me." Kanye froze, the word Messiah hitting like a slap. The audience held its breath, the silence deafening. Then, with a snarl, Kanye turned and stormed toward the edge of the stage, his voice echoing. "I'm done with this circus, Piers. You're not worth my time." The crowd erupted as Kanye disappeared into the wings, leaving Piers standing alone, his face a mask of fury. The cameras panned to the stunned audience, the moment already destined for viral infamy. What had just happened? And what would Kanye do next? The studio was a cauldron of chaos, the crowd's roars echoing as Kanye West vanished into the shadows of the wings. Piers Morgan stood center stage, his face a storm of fury and disbelief, the weight of the moment sinking in. The cameras, relentless, zoomed in on his clenched jaw, then panned to the audience, their faces a mix of shock and exhilaration. This wasn't just a confrontation, it was a spectacle, already rippling across social media. Whispers of Kanye's exit buzzed through the crowd, but the tension hadn't broken. It was only building. What would happen next? Would Kanye return, or had he burned this bridge for good? Piers adjusted his tie, forcing a tight smile as he addressed the audience. "Well, folks, it seems Kanye West can't handle a real conversation. But we're not done here." His voice was sharp, laced with defiance, but there was a tremor beneath it, a hint of unease. The crowd cheered, though some booed, loyal to Kanye's rebellion. Piers waved a hand, silencing them. "He can run, but he can't hide from the truth. Let's talk about what just happened." Before he could continue, a commotion erupted offstage. The audience craned their necks, murmurs rising. Then, to everyone's shock, Kanye stormed back onto the set, his face a mask of rage, microphone in hand. The crowd exploded, some chanting his name, others jeering. Piers froze, caught off guard, as Kanye marched up to him, stopping inches away. "You think I'm running, Piers?" Kanye's voice was a low growl, every word dripping with contempt. "I came back to finish this. You don't get to call me delusional and think I'll just take it." Piers recovered quickly, stepping forward to meet Kanye's glare. "Finish what, Kanye? You're the one who walked out. If you can't handle a few hard questions, maybe you're not as tough as you think." The audience gasped, the air crackling with hostility. Kanye's eyes narrowed, his voice rising. "Hard questions? You're not asking questions, Piers. You're attacking me, trying to tear me down to make yourself look big. You're a bully with a camera." Piers laughed, a harsh, biting sound. "A bully? That's rich, Kanye. You've spent years bullying entire communities with your reckless words. You don't get to play victim now." Kanye jabbed a finger at Piers, his voice booming. "Victim? I'm no victim, Piers. I'm a warrior. I'm out here speaking truth, while you're just a vulture, picking at scraps for views. You're nothing without me on this stage." The crowd roared, split between cheers and jeers, feeding off the raw energy. Piers's face reddened, his voice cutting like a blade. "Nothing? I was doing just fine before you showed up, Kanye. You're the one who needs this platform to stay relevant. Without it, you're just a fading star with a Twitter account." Kanye's laugh was cold, menacing. "Fading? I'm Kanye West, Piers. I'm a legend. You're a footnote, a loudmouth who thinks he's important because he's got a desk and a mic. You're a joke." Piers took a step closer, their faces inches apart, the tension suffocating. "A joke? Look at yourself, Kanye. You're unraveling, ranting about conspiracies, alienating everyone. You're not a legend. You're a tragedy." The word hung in the air, a verbal grenade. Kanye's fists clenched, his voice a snarl. "Tragedy? You want to talk tragedy, Piers? How about your career? You're a washed-up tabloid hack who's been milking my name for ratings all night." Piers's eyes blazed, his voice dropping to a venomous hiss. "Milking your name? I'm exposing you, Kanye. You're a deranged man who thinks he's untouchable, a messiah complex wrapped in a hoodie. You need help, not a microphone." The crowd gasped, the insult landing like a punch. Kanye's face twisted, his voice shaking. With fury. "Help? You're the one who needs help, Piers. You're obsessed with me, with tearing me down. You're a sad, bitter man who can't stand that I'm bigger than you'll ever be, Piers smirked, unyielding. Bigger? You're not bigger, Kanye. You're broken. And the world's watching you fall apart. Kanye stepped back, his eyes burning, the weight of Piers's words sinking in. The audience was on edge, sensing the breaking point. Kanye's voice dropped, almost a whisper. You think you've won, Piers? This ain't over. He turned, tossing the microphone to the floor with a deafening thud, and stormed off again, the crowd erupting in chaos. Piers stood alone, his chest heaving, as the cameras captured every second. The internet was already ablaze, but the real question lingered. Would Kanye let this end here? The studio was a furnace of raw emotion, the crowd's roars reverberating, as Kanye West's microphone hit the floor with a shattering thud. His parting words, "This ain't over," hung in the air like a threat, his figure disappearing into the wings for the second time. Piers Morgan stood alone on the Piers Morgan, uncensored set, his chest rising and falling, sweat beading on his brow. The cameras zoomed in, capturing the fire in his eyes, then panned to the audience. A sea of stunned faces, some cheering, others shouting Kanye's name. Social media was already exploding, clips of the clash racking up millions of views. But the question burned. Would Kanye return, or had this fiery confrontation finally broken him? Piers ran a hand through his hair, turning to the audience with a steely gaze. Well, that's Kanye West, folks. Storming off when the truth hits. Too hard. But we're not finished. Let's talk about what we just saw. His voice was steady, but the edge of triumph was unmistakable. The crowd buzzed, some clapping, others murmuring in dissent. Piers paced the stage, his energy relentless. This is what happens when you challenge someone who thinks they're above accountability. Kanye can't face the mirror, and he's running from it. The words were barely out when a low chant began in the crowd. Kanye! Kanye! Piers froze, his jaw tightening. The cameras swung toward the wings, where a shadow moved. The audience erupted as Kanye strode back onto the stage, his face a mask of defiance, a new microphone in hand. The room shook with noise, the tension suffocating. Piers turned, his expression a mix of surprise and disdain, as Kanye stopped. Dead center, staring him down. You think I'm running, Piers? Kanye's voice was low, dangerous, every syllable a challenge. I came back to shut you down. You don't get to call me broken and walk away clean. Piers crossed his arms, a smirk flickering. Shut me down? You've been trying all night, Kanye, and you're failing. You can't handle the heat, so you keep storming off like a child. The crowd gasped, the insult cutting deep. Kanye's eyes blazed, his voice rising. A child? You're the one throwing tantrums, Piers, hiding. Behind your fancy set, acting like you're God's gift to journalism. You're a clown, and this whole show's a circus. Piers stepped forward, his voice a growl. A clown? Look at you, Kanye. Ranting, raving, thinking you're untouchable. You're not a genius, you're a man unraveling, and everyone sees it. Kanye laughed, a bitter, jagged sound. Unraveling? I'm stronger than you'll ever be, Piers. I'm out here changing the world, while you're stuck yelling at guests for clicks. You're a parasite. The audience roared, split between cheers and boos, the energy chaotic. Piers's face flushed, his voice icy. A parasite? I'm doing my job, Kanye, holding you accountable. You're the one hurting people, spewing hate, acting like you're the Messiah. You're not saving the world, you're breaking it. Kanye's fists clenched, his voice shaking with rage. Breaking it? I'm building it, Piers. You're too small to see it. You're just a bitter old man, jealous of my light, trying to dim it with your cheap shots. Piers took a step closer, their faces inches apart, the air crackling. Jealous? I pity you, Kanye. You're a deranged shadow of who you were, chasing a fantasy where you're the savior. You're lost, and you're too proud to admit it." The crowd fell silent, the weight of the words crushing. Kanye's eyes flickered, a flash of something, pain maybe, before hardening again. He leaned in, his voice a whisper that carried to every corner. "Pity me? Save it, Piers. You're the one who's lost, sitting here thinking you've won because you got a reaction. I'm Kanye West. I don't need your stage." With that, Kanye dropped the microphone, the sound echoing like a gunshot. He turned, not to the wings, but toward the audience, raising a fist in defiance. The crowd erupted, some cheering wildly, others jeering as he walked through them, out the studio doors, and into the night. Piers stood frozen, his victory hollow, the cameras capturing his solitude. The broadcast cut to Piers, alone, addressing the viewers. "Kanye West walked away tonight, but the conversation doesn't end here. This is about responsibility, about the power of words. He may not see it, but we do." The audience clapped, subdued, the energy spent. Online, the clash was dissected, debated, memed, but Kanye's final act, leaving on his terms, left a mark. He hadn't bowed, but neither had Piers. The world watched, divided, as two titans clashed and parted, each claiming triumph. The story ended not in reconciliation, but in raw, unyielding truth. Some battles don't have winners, only survivors.